What's up everybody, Brambo here with another tutorial. This time I am going to be focusing on streaming basics, and one of my first videos I'm going to do is TouchPortal. Now you may or may not have heard of it, however you probably heard of its counterpart, Stream Deck, the Elgato Stream Deck. Very popular device, almost industry standard in our world, or at least the holy grail of industry standards. And as you can see, I have one set up. I've used it for many years, a long while. But due to my current PC setup, I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other thing. I was unable to use any of the Steam decks that I have, or Stream decks that I have purchased. So I've had to look for alternatives to use a Stream Deck like device, and that's where I came across TouchPortal. But the thing I like about TouchPortal is that it is free at first to use. Now it is a paid option. However, there's no subscriptions, and you can kind of it's a very low point of entry in terms of cost. I think the first cost is the Pro upgrade. Unlock other features, unlimited amount of pages and stuff, but I think it's free to use at first. It's free to use. And this Pro upgrade of $13.99 is a one-time payment per account. Now that's per account per OS. So if you have a mix of Android and iOS devices that you would like to use for this, then it's going to be double the price, because I wanted to make sure before I started this video, the licensing is one-time payment lifetime, but it's the account management is done through the app stores that you buy it through. So if I buy it through iOS, then my Pro upgrade is only for iOS, if that makes any sense. But for like I said, I use the iOS stuff, so but I'm set up BlueStacks in order to kind of have a visual representation for you guys of what it would look like. So it's free to use at first, but you're probably going to want to at least spend the $13.99 just for better quality of life once you get used to it. However, not necessary. You can do a lot with it just to get started right off the bat. But again, all these things are one-time payments, very affordable upgrades, and I kind of glossed over that. The whole aspect of TouchPortal is that it utilizes any Android or iOS device that you have lying around. So an Android tablet, an iPad. I'm currently using an iPad that my wife doesn't use. So it's a great alternative to Stream Decks, because it uses, instead of the Stream Deck uses a USB connection, this is a over the network connection. Now that we've got that out of the way, kind of explaining what TouchPortal is, go into a little basics of what TouchPortal does. So I wanted to show off, and this is the app, the host of TouchPortal. This is what it looks like when you're setting it up. Now, when you click on the buttons, it gives you all these options to do. So you can do, sky's the limit really with what you can do with in-house, and then on top of it, it also allows plugins. Now, for an example, so let's see here. Okay, so if I wanted to look at plugins, I can go to the TouchPortal website and just look at the list of plugins that are available. So, and you can basically find anything that you can do in Stream Deck, you can basically do in TouchPortal, with a small caveat that a lot of some of the plugins that, in comparison to Stream Deck, where it's literally plug and play, you don't have to fuss much with Stream Deck in order to get it to work. TouchPortal requires a little bit extra work to get it to, play nice properly. So it's a little more hands-on in terms of a Stream Deck, but when you don't have much of an option and you don't really want to put down a bunch of money towards a Stream Deck at all, you got to put in a little more effort to get what you need. So with that in mind, I'll give you a list of the plugins that I'm currently using. Now, by default, you have your connection to OBS, you've got XSplit, Twitch, and all that stuff. But I added Home Assistant because I have a Home Assistant on my local network, Discord, hardware monitor, Windows Media Mixer, Keylight, StreamerBot, Voice Meter because I use that in Voice Mod, the Wave plugin, Windows Mover, and Windows Tools. Those are kind of the go-to ones for myself. Now, as I mentioned, you can kind of do anything you really want. And in the way it starts out is, so obviously clicking on this, it's not, when you're using the Windows version, it's not going to operate like you're using a Stream Deck because you're used to, like, when you're on Stream Deck's UI, you kind of click into a folder and then if you double click, it goes into that folder. That's not how it works with TouchPortal. With TouchPortal, the pages are all set up in this drop down. So you've got, these will be how you navigate to each page on the Windows side with your host, as I would call it. But on the app side, you just click on it and it brings you in there. Like, so you're gonna have to kind of, it, like I said, it's a couple more extra steps in order to kind of get the same effect that you would with a Stream Deck. And one thing to keep in mind too is refreshing the page a lot is going to help update anything. Maybe it's not working right. It's a little bit finicky when it comes to, like, just refresh. Sometimes refreshing the page can help. Now, so again, your first buttons you want to make are, to go to a specific page, and the general look at that is, just go to a page. You can also stack actions, and we'll go into that a little bit more. I'll give you some examples of my buttons that I've set up, but for now, we're going to go to our example page and just kind of understand. I'm going to delete this. So when you're setting up your page, you can right click to delete and do anything you want here. But again, clicking into any of these buttons on Windows will just kind of give you the button options. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our first action. Let me think of something. Set recording state. Let's do that with OBS. So I already have OBS set up here, and the button is to start toggle and recording. Now that's, and save and close. And if I hit this button right now, it will, what will it do? It'll start my recording. I don't want to hit that on my UI because that will actually, I don't know what it'll do with my recording. But so that's it. You've already set up a button to start recording for OBS. You're already off the right track. Now, by default, I think you're limited to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 4x2 page, but that's where the Pro aspect comes in, and you can have a much larger page size. For example, this is what my casting page looks like, or at least on the setup side. You'll understand why it's darker if I can show you a screenshot of my iPad, what my iPad looks like. It'll make a little more sense. But for now, so by default, this is what you're limited to. But if you upgrade it, you can expand the grid 4x2, 4x4, and it'll show you right there. And you can maximize button space. You can group buttons. You can really, the beauty of TouchPortal, it really gives you the freedom to visualize what your page wants to look like. And that's something that, Stream Deck does a pretty good job of, but I think TouchPortal, for the people who like to tweak and make their pages look really cool, or make things look really cool with just customization, that they'll really get a kick out of this. For example, you can actually have things update and change based on actions that happen. Now, I won't fully get into that yet. I think that's a little more advanced, but for just now starting. Now, we mentioned you have your general plugins. They have them kind of grouped. content creation, home automation, but miscellaneous will be where your plugins are. So again, I mentioned all the plugins I had at the top, and I can use a key light. And in order to set those up, you kind of have, again, you have to import the plugins. So you go here, import plugin. And that's the other thing. You're going to have to download these plugins manually. So you go to the website and they're done by third parties. So again, you click on the plugin, it'll take you to a lot of Christoph CVB is a main contributor to a lot of these accounts. So just going to go ahead and proceed to download. It'll bring it up and you'll download it to your hard drive. And you'll have these TPP plugins, as you can see all of mine here. So we're just going to pretend we already imported these plugins. And so we'll look at Discord, easy one. So again, see how it needs a little bit of setup in order to work. So let's go to and if you don't want to browse through this list, I don't really have a good option opposite for you. That's one of the things. It's like it's very hard to kind of browse through, but if the better source honestly is the TouchPortal Discord. In here it has kind of a list of all the plugins through audio and media and like kind of have them set through organization. So you can kind of go through here and see what plugins are available. Trying to see if I can find the Discord one. There's a Discord one. So I looked in the pinned messages. Okay, there's the plugin for Discord. Well, that looks like that is the Discord one. So this is a great example of like you have to put in a little more steps in order to get the plugin in general. Then also you have if you notice there's a client ID and a client secret. You have to do there's instructions on how to get Discord working. How to see. Mhm. So see, I'm reading these instructions as well. I don't remember how I did it. So again, it's a little more convoluted, but once you get the hang of it, once you get things like the plugins set up and you get the connection working, that's where the power is really unleashed. I mean, again, it's a lot of work up front, but it is well worth the effort. So I would strongly encourage you to stick with it, especially if you don't have another option. I promise it is worth the time. So we'll go into some examples of what you can do with this. So like I said, right now this looks kind of basic, but if I will show a screenshot or at least a video of what my iPad looks like in this example page, because it looks kind of rough right now, but trust me, once you understand now for full disclosure, I have paid for the pro version for my iPad, so I have this size screen. I can definitely have it looks much better on this screen. Now I will kind of go and explain some of these buttons here. So I have a volume visualizer for all of my audio sources on OBS. So this is a direct uh, live feed of what the volume levels are for each of my audio sources. I have some scene switching options up here. I use Voicemeeter for my audio control, so some buttons for there. If we can go into there, so as I mentioned, you can do. This is my start stream button, so it sets the scene to starting soon. I mute or unmute various audio sources. I can use a filter in OBS, runs an action with StreamerBot. We can get into a video about that later, and then starts the streaming. service. So that's one button. I also have an end stream button. Now, this one's, as you can see, a lot more involved for a specific reason, and I'll get into that once I go through what each of this is. First off, I'm running a PowerShell script for my own stream purposes. This is for the end stream to have video replays of my stream. And then this is a local value O on. This is basically my countdown timer, and I have a loop on here to repeat 20 times, and it waits 1 second while it does the countdown. So long story short, this is a 20-second timer. And then once this is done, it will then repeat these steps. Also, I have in this button will also change the text on the button to the local value. Basically, this is a long way of updating the text with this number, which will be local state 01. So that's an example of what you can do. Again, setting up actions all in one thing. That's kind of it's if you've used the Stream Deck before, you're very familiar with what this looks like if you've set up a multi-action button before. But this is what it looks like with TouchPortal. And again, I have not really put in a lot of time towards like pages and what they could look like, but there are some examples on the website of pages with like what it could look like, and Windows shortcuts, OBS, Twitch Pro. It's even like shows your chat and all different stuff, which actually that looks really cool. Loop deck emulation, like, so the sky is really the limit with what you can do with this touch portal. But that's kind of just a general overview of like the basics of just kind of getting yourself familiar with touch portal. And it's really bare bones because I don't want to get into too much specifics because I feel like I'm just going to go off on a tangent, you know what I mean? And not really get this figured out. So if I've missed anything, let me know in the comments. But that's it for my intro into Touch Portal. And if this does well, I can do more advanced stuff in the future. But thanks for watching. See you next time.